thumbs up. All right. Ajay Vora is with us, head of equities at Nuvama Asset. Ajay, good afternoon. Good to have you with us here. Just a quick word, if you will. Cement, I mean, if you like the space, the worry in a way has been there's been no real price increase, nothing noteworthy, in the first quarter before the rains hit and all of that. But companies like Ultratech are able to squeeze out operational efficiencies and sort of improve on profitability, etc. Do you like the space? What's the view?
Yeah, good afternoon, Prashant, and thanks for having me on the show. So yeah, we are constructive on this space, but obviously, within this space also you have to be a little more selective in terms of companies which have very efficient cost structure, and most importantly, they have scale. So Ultratech definitely fits there because now the size is reasonably very large, and they are doing an excellent job on the overall branding and also cost structure. So I think you have to be very selective, but obviously as you rightly pointed out that during monsoon we don't see that kind of a price hike, and also elections are going on, so the overall construction activity also slows down. So my sense is that someone with a 1 to 2 year kind of a view at least can be really positive on this space.
Ajay, hi, good afternoon. Let's talk financials. I remember our last conversation, I mean, you were pointing out that we need to watch for margins carefully. But I guess so far in the season, at least on the larger banks, we've not seen too much of a margin compression or destruction. Could be 5-10 basis points here or there. So what's the sense? How are you looking to play the banking space? And also then, maybe a word on the likes of NBFCs. When you have the industry poster child, Bajaj Finance itself lowering market expectations, talking about pressure on NIMs going forward, pressure on growth going forward. I mean, where does that leave you with respect to NBFCs?
Yeah, hi, Surbi. So, banking now, honestly, I feel that, it's in a space where everything else has become so expensive. If you look at all the sectors, most of the sectors, I would say, and therefore banking to some extent looks far more attractive. And within that also, as you rightly pointed out, that they have navigated this whole NIM compression cycle in a far better way. And most importantly, growth was still there across most of the larger names. So my sense is that if this whole NIM compression is bottoming out, maybe not now, but maybe a couple of quarters down the line, and then if you build in fundraising, which has been announced by a couple of large private banks, stocks are looking extremely cheap. And if you compare that with other sectors where growth is actually non-existent, at least for FY25, valuations are still looking high. So as I said that if you compare across sectors, banking is something which is finally left to buy. Everything else has moved quite a lot, and therefore we have seen this kind of a rally. What is happening today? Coming to NBFCs, I think again over there we would like to be very specific because it all depends on the business model and what is your overall the funding liability kind of a mix and all. So my sense is that recently a couple of companies who announced the numbers on the vehicle financing side or a couple of other names as well, they are extremely well positioned and they still have a decent runway from here on as well. So within NBFC, I would say that the regulatory the overhang is there within that space, and now it is also on the banking side. But I think that, compared to all other sectors, this is looking far more well-positioned from here on.
Speaking of regulatory overhang, Ajay, any specific take on Kotak Mahindra Bank? Not asking, specific buy or sell, but just, last week told us that even the biggest of the blue chip banks may not be spared. Your views on the kind of price action that followed?
So I think we just have to assess that any kind of action, what impact can it have on an overall earnings trajectory, right? So as you also must have read, because the action will definitely have an impact on the overall growth and most importantly profitability as well. And therefore, we have always historically seen how Kotak Bank's growth has been. It's been a little more volatile versus I would say other banks because they generally end up taking calls on the business cycle, and they have many verticals. Their exposure is to quite a few different business verticals. So I would say that we need to see how the overall growth gets impacted because of his action. And stock is definitely cheap, but I would say that it's better that you look at other names where the proportion of I would say secured loan is pretty high, the profitability is intact. And most importantly, at the end of the day, what matters is your ROEs. So I think a couple of other banks are offering much higher ROEs and growth profile within this space.
Okay, all right, got that. Just a quick Ajay, just give us a sense of which parts of the market you're focused on as you continue to sort of deploy and participate. Which are the top themes?
So Prashant, we are forming a view where we would like to be a little more cautious from now on till maybe we navigate the two big events, which is election and the subsequent budget. And why do I say that is because if you look at the growth trajectory, what we have seen over last 6 quarters, every quarter at an aggregate level, we have seen an earnings upgrade. And now if you look at March quarter earnings, what is expected, it will be the slowest growth over last 6 quarters. So my sense is that we have come a long way in terms of how the earnings have shaped up. If you remember, during COVID, we were somewhere close to 450 rupees EPS, and we'll end this year with somewhere close to 980,000 rupees EPS. So a large part of growth, and in fact this year FY24, we will witness one of the highest growth of late, which is a 20% kind of a growth. So going forward, if the growth is likely to slow down, you have two big major events coming up. And globally also, if you see that, rate cut cycle is just getting postponed. So my sense is that, we are in a trajectory where either we stay in this range or any kind of a negative news, I don't think that is priced into the market. So I would say that, we are more a little bit on the cautious side right now from here on. And we would have exposure to sectors which I think that, where at least the certainty of the earnings or the growth profile is much higher than the Nifty earnings growth. So I think we are more positive on, commodities from here on, to some extent, oil and gas as well, the OMC space. And obviously, banking being the largest sector, there we were not that positive earlier, but selectively we are getting names where, the growth trajectory is significantly higher. So trying to be a little more cautious, and we manage our risk pretty much, efficiently. So we are getting into that mode right now.
Ajay, you said elections and budget. The cautiousness around elections is just customary cautiousness around a big election like this, or are you? Is it more than that?
No, so Prashant, honestly, when everyone is in the same boat, and we keep talking about very big numbers on the election outcome, at times that really scares me. And especially, we all have seen how the voter turnout has been in the first two phases. So I'm just, we are not ready for any kind of a negative, and I'm not saying that, the mandate will not be there. But, we never know how the numbers can change and narrative can change. So I'm just trying to be a little more cautious going into these two big events.
Fair enough, Ajay. Some caution is always good, always warranted. And take your point completely. Yes. The expectations are running very high, and those numbers do look very, very big, the ones that have been doing the rounds. Thank you for joining in. We'll love to chat again in a couple of weeks' time. Well, that's a view coming in from Nuvama. Let's move on now and take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll, of course, have the latest from dealing rooms. Nimesh is going to join back in, talk about this big large cap rally that we've had on D Street Chatter. And we'll get Mitesh back in with some final trades as well.